Our speaker this evening is Anthony Cumia. He's a New York-born radio, satellite, and broadcaster, and in 1995 he became the co-host of the popular shock jock program, The Opie and Anthony Show, which became the highest-rated program in all of New York City. And it continued after having been nationally syndicated in 2001 until 2014. And that year, Sirius Radio fired Mr. Cumia for what it called racially charged and hate-filled remarks on social media. At the time, Rolling Stone reported that Mr. Cumia did not appear to be contrite over the incident. What nerve! And as a result, Mr. Cumia set up something called Compound Media and now broadcasts the Anthony Cumia Show Monday through Thursday. Now, I have a friend who lives in Finland. Well, she's Finnish, as a matter of fact. And she wrote to me the following. She says, I am a huge Opie and Anthony fan. I downloaded all of their shows a decade ago, and I listened every day for a long, long time. I wish I could be here. I have massive FOMO. I had to look that up on the internet. That stands for fear of missing out. I bet you had no idea you were such a hit in Finland. Well, none of us in this room need have FOMO. We will not miss out. Please welcome Anthony Cumia. Great to have you.
Thank you. Oh my God. Let me get my glasses. Oh. First off, anyone see that Jake Paul Tyson fight last night? Yeah? You did? It was, strangely enough, it's a weird turn of events. A young white guy beating up an old black guy and running off with the money. Maybe we are turning this around. I don't know. Of course, I want to thank everyone at American Renaissance and Jared Taylor. I've been a fan for so many years, and you know, it's weird to say you're a fan of a guy that is on a mission, such a mission that he is. I just adore his speaking tone, if I could see that, his ease with which he handles supposedly controversial topics. I've listened to the videos, watched the videos, and listened, of course. And after I do, there's just, you feel good about what you've said, but the rest of the day I walk around going, honey, could I have a egg white omelet? I just can't understand why this paint doesn't look as white as it did when we... With all due respect, sir. With all due respect. But it's my first time here at Ameren, and I couldn't be happier. Everybody I've met has been amazing. The opposition to what we believe in would like to believe that we sit here and promote violence and anger and hate, and no one sees this because it's not happening. These are a bunch of very intelligent, fun people, great to talk to. I've spoken with so many people since I've been here, and everyone is just so welcoming, and it's a great experience. And it scares the opposition, the left, the woke. It scares them. They need the monster to be in the closet. Anytime a child says, I think there's a monster in the closet, the parent has two choices. They can open the door and say, there's no monster in here. It's fine. Go to sleep, open the door, show the child there's no monster. Or the parent can say, I'll put a door against there and protect you from the monster. And what our government likes to do is put the chair against the door and make believe that there is a monster in there. And it presents them as a savior, people that will prevent that monster from hurting you. when the realism is that there is no monster. They would love to think of all of you as monsters. And the truth is just completely the opposite of that. It's also strange to believe that while we're here and while we're talking, we talk about a certain amount of courage that everybody has being here. And it's true, but why? Why do we have to be brave to show up, to talk, and to listen? This is a country that was supposed to be built on our ability as Americans to speak to each other, listen, have lively debate, disagree, and we sit here having to cower in the darkness at some point. Some of us aren't allowed or able to use our actual names because there are people out there that are ready, willing, and able to destroy your lives based on sitting and talking. Like I said, no one's advocating violence. This isn't some armed rebellion ready to go out and tear up society. This is the most basic of what we do as Americans: converse, talk, break bread, and enjoy ourselves. It's a shame. Thank you. It's a shame that we've gotten to this point. Hopefully, you know, I know that Trump election, it was a light at the end of the tunnel for me. I was this close to being completely black-pilled. Talking to a bunch of it, you just wake up and go, yeah, we're screwed, dude. It's just, there's nothing left. It's terrible. And then I know Donald Trump isn't this be-all, end-all savior. We all understand this. We're realists here. But I think it buys us some time. It's a speed bump on the road to ruin that we have been on for quite a while. And as Jared has brought up, and even some other of the speakers tonight, there's a younger generation that is coming up that, you know, look, I remember being a kid and the last thing I wanted to do was sound or act anything like my parents. So this younger generation is coming up and they're looking at their woke parents and saying, no, that's not me. That's not what I want for this country. So if we could buy a little time till they mature a bit and get into some positions of power, boy, that could be a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. I'm a radio guy by profession. I wasn't always. I didn't get into radio until I was 35 years old. I was a construction worker. I put in air conditioning and heating ductwork. I was a tin knocker, as they call it. And I wanted so badly to get into radio. I just had no contact. I didn't know how. I didn't go to school for it. I would listen to various radio shows out of New York. Of course, Howard Stern and a few of the other boss jocks of the 70s. Coming up next, it's the Eagles, Hotel California. And for me, that was like fantastic. So I wanted to do it, didn't know how to do it. And I was in bands with my brother for quite some time. This is how I got into radio. And I got into radio because of one man, O.J. Simpson. Yeah, that O.J. Simpson. Orenthal James Simpson is the only reason I am in the broadcast business. For you young people that might not know, O.J. was an amazing football player, had a great career, won the Heisman Trophy at USC, and just over 11,000 yards with the Buffalo Bills. Went on to an acting career. You may have seen him in The Naked Gun, The Naked Gun 2, The Naked Gun 2.5. Oh, and he was a psychopathic, sociopath murderer who killed his wife and a friend of hers, Ron Goldman. Yes. I don't think that deserves applause. And that was kind of a moment in history where the jury gave their verdict and you looked around and went, I think this country's got a problem. So I did what any civic-minded, sympathetic person would do and wrote a song parody about it. It was to Otis Redding's Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. And it was called Gonna Electric Shock OJ. I wrote that. Silly me. I assumed, with the preponderance of evidence against OJ, that he would be found guilty and perhaps have to face the electric chair in California. But silly me. It seems that a jury of his peers decided to not convict him. So the song got very popular. And Opie Hughes, who had the Opie show on WBAB on Long Island, invited me and my brother in to perform it live. It went over very well. But I saw my moment. I was like, this is my moment to shine on the radio and get out of doing this construction stuff. So I just did not stop talking. I was doing impressions. I was just dancing as fast as I could. And Opie was bringing me in the next week, the week after that. He had sent these tapes out to various radio stations around the country, and we got an offer from WAAF in Boston to be their afternoon show. And I didn't look back. I took my tools as I was driving up 95 from New York to Boston. I took my big tools, my tin knocking tools, and I threw them out the window right on the median strip of 95. And I checked the mileage marker on the side of the road just in case I fell on my ass. I could scavenge my tin snips back up and go to work. But thank God that never happened, and I was able to continue. But we did very well in Boston. We were a shock jock show. This was all about sexual innuendo and, boobs. That was what we did. It was all about, we had a promotion called Whip 'em Out Wednesday. This was brilliant. If you put WOW on the dirt of the truck, back of your truck, or a WOW sticker on your car, if a woman felt so inclined as she passed that vehicle, she would flash you. And that was one of our big promotions. Look, the 90s were a different time, people. Shock jockery was a huge thing. I know, believe me, I've had to live with it many years. We finally got fired after 3 years from WAF in Boston because Opie thought it was a great idea on April Fool's Day to say that Mayor Thomas Menino was dead. Although we cheered them up for a few minutes, it turned out not to be true, and we got in big trouble for that. As Thomas Menino, and anyone from Boston knows Thomas Menino, he said, "That's what those people done to the video and up the bit." Had a bit of a speech impediment. So we were done. It was over for us. They escorted us to the Connecticut state line and asked that we never return. So the agent calls and says, I got 2 offers. One is in New York, one's in Atlanta. Anyone from Atlanta here? Yeah. All right. So sorry. So sorry. They wanted us to do a rock show in Atlanta at the rock station down there, so they flew us down to Atlanta, and we get in this limousine. The station went, spared no expense to show us a good time. We're on the highway, and we're dead stop traffic. And there's a Russian driver, and he's smoking, and he's like, much traffic today. What's the problem? It is Freaknik. Freaknik is the black college get-together for Atlanta. And I go, well, what does that have to do with us getting into town? The black women get on the cars and do the twerk dance. There is no moving 1 hour. Like, is there any way we can maybe go around? No, Freaknik is everywhere. Like, holy... Before I even got to the station and talked to the station guys, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not coming to Atlanta. They're like, oh, but Buckhead's great. Sorry, So we took the job in New York at WNEW, which was a legendary rock station in New York. And this was a strange time in radio. And I have such great memories because I got in the tail end. Like I said, I wasn't a radio guy, but I was able to get in the tail end of when radio was still so much fun, so exciting, and you could take those chances and do strange, fun things. And then in '96, it was a little before, but it took time for them to get up to speed. It was the Telecommunications Act in 1996, where they said any company can buy as many radio stations as they want. And this was the death knell of local radio and personality-driven radio. It put radio in the hands of just a few companies. Not only radio, television. I mean, this is the reason there are only a set amount of owners of everything you see. And it's affected the way we get our news. So radio was also part of this, and big corporations took over. When I was in Massachusetts, in Boston, we were owned by Zappis Communications. I met Mr. Zappis. We shook hands. We spoke about radio. Once this Telecommunications Act went in, every station was bought by a giant conglomerate. Now, there was no one to explain, hey, well, this break that is controversial, it got these complaint letters, it was because we were doing this and that. They don't want to hear it. They sell baby diapers and lumber and laundry detergent. And if there's any threat to that corporate umbrella of other products, they don't want to hear it. You are gone. And that's what happened to a lot of these radio personalities. They also took a slide rule out and figured that every second of airtime was somehow worth money. So they didn't want you talking about your weekend or, talking about a pretty girl you saw at the mall that day. Or it wasn't that innocent. We would say really horrible things. But they figured out a way to monetize it. The sales staff would come in, and it really did destroy radio. Another kind of nostalgic memory I have of radio was, and it's odd because you wouldn't think it, the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC. I look back at the FCC with fondness and nostalgia. It was quaint. They literally had to adhere to the First Amendment. They're a government agency. So if you got a complaint sent to your station over something you said that someone deemed offensive, there was a protocol that they had to run through. The person with the complaint had to send a letter, a real paper letter, and it had to state what time this offense took place. If they didn't know the names of the people, they had to say speaker 1, speaker 2. It was all written out. And then the FCC would take up the complaint with the station, and we'd give them evidence. But it was such a gray area. There was, of course, we all remember the George Carlin bit, the 7 dirty words. Those are the 7 dirty words, if you want to look them up. I'm not going to say them here. But those were the hard rules. You say these, that's a problem. Everything else was this gray area. You could use sexual innuendo and jokes and really kind of describe what you wanted to put across without being so blunt and blatant about it. And the FCC had to, again, adhere to your First Amendment right because they're a government agency. Once corporations took over, people could complain directly to the corporation. Now, when Mr. Zappis would get a letter that said, Anthony said something I find very offensive, Mr. Zappis would come in and go, Anthony, that's terrible. Let's look at the ratings. Wow. You'd get a pat on the back, a week off for your suspension, paid, and that was it. It was part and parcel of what they wanted. They wanted you to go up there and get ratings and stir stuff up. You're hired as a shock jock. Be shocking. Once the corporations took over, the people that wanted your voice silenced knew. if they wrote a letter to the head of the company and 20 more emails, not even letters anymore, just boom, 1,000 of them are sent off to numerous people in this company. And like I said, radio is just one thing. They're selling diapers. They're selling cold medicine. It doesn't matter. All of a sudden, they're thinking, well, this guy's complaining about the radio show. How is it going to affect our ragu spaghetti sauce sales? It had no rhyme or reason, and there was no more giving them an excuse as to why you said something, or they didn't care about the ratings. It was just another piece in their giant corporate puzzle. And that really started screwing things up. Because your bosses, who you don't even know anymore. There's no Mr. Zappis. There's a nameless, faceless entity. So many of these middle management guys would come up and I'd say, can I speak with somebody? And he would go, And he'd point. I go, the light? The what? The air conditioning vent? No, upstairs. There wasn't a guy. It's a room. It's a board. It's a conglomeration, a consortium. And they really restricted what you couldn't talk about. And we were still doing entertainment, mostly just sexual material, which guys seemed to like back then. I don't know what it is now. Once the PC nonsense started, it was the last nail in the coffin for personality-driven radio. I noticed a big change in 2008. You all remember what happened in 2008? It was an election. When Obama got elected, I lost my mind on the air. I didn't break any rules, but I just let it be known I was none too happy with our new president-elect. And watching the black community just euphoric over this, over free stuff. He wasn't even the president yet, and I was watching some of these news programs, and they were doing the on-the-street interviews, and I was just watching, I got my Obama phone, and I'm like, I'm paying for that. I'm going to be paying for this. So I started being a little more vocal about my displeasure with the election and what I was seeing, because we had already started seeing this encroaching disdain for white society and white people, white innovation, all the great things that were available in this country. People were just kind of co-opting and discounting who came up with all this stuff and saying that we don't have a culture. Meanwhile, you're typing into our culture, you dummy. So it was very frustrating. And then with the Obama election, and even early on, the beer summit, and if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon. It was so divisive, so divisive. And, you know, he tried to come off like a president for all people, just a knock-around guy, a little nerdy. But again, like most black leaders, I use the term very loosely in this country, their first number one agenda is black people. And yeah, thank you, yes. They talk about being a president for all people. Well, a president for all people doesn't talk about different races. They talk about Americans. If you are an American in this country and you're a contributing member of society, you will benefit from a leadership that provides for American people. You don't need subsectors. And what is he going to, they literally say, what is he going to do for black people? Well, if you act like a civilized human being in a civil society, you will get everything that everyone else gets. But that is not the way. And you see this in so many of these cities. Oh my God. I did a radio appearance. We were broadcasting live in New Orleans. And I heard one of the speakers earlier talking about living in New Orleans. And I visited there once. I don't know how you would live there for any length of time. It is terrible. we were up on a balcony, and it's fun. It's Mardi Gras, you know? We're up on a balcony, the beads, the beers, the drinks, and we're broadcasting with our microphones. And I'm looking out at the crowd, and I see these young black gentlemen on the side of the road that's packed. You're snaking your way through. You're trying to go with your drinks. And they're punching white people in the face as they're walking by. And we're trying to yell. Like, I'm doing a radio show. It's supposed to be kind of fun, lighthearted, and I'm going, run for your life! What are you doing? Get out of there. It was terrible. And with impunity. And that seems to be a big problem these days, is just the lack of any consequence. I heard so many people say, you know, you go into a CVS and they let the people stealing go, but they lock up the shampoo. It's so ridiculous. And you'll hear people go in and go, well, why has this happened? Why are they locking up? It's not a question that you need to ask. Everyone knows. But no one wants to address the actual problem. Young blacks are going into places and stealing because no one is stopping them. There's no shame anymore. There's no consequence anymore. In the olden days, when I was a child, there was consequence to things. And I hate that they call it shoplifting. This is intimidation robbery that's going on. It's strong-arm robbery. Yeah. If you're a 14-year-old girl going into Claire's and you clip a little necklace because your friends are watching and it's exciting, that's shoplifting. That's shoplifting. If a bruiser thug with a hoodie up and a mask on is stealing everything near him, and you go, excuse me, and he turns around at you, that's intimidation robbery. That is an actual crime of strong-arm robbery. And I've seen people try to stop them, and they sometimes get their ass handed to them. So shoplifting is way too innocent a term to use for what's happening. But if we can't even talk about the problem, it will never even get near a solution. And people are petrified to speak out about what's happening in the black community. What a community. And it brings me back to radio, because I got in trouble and I got fired for voicing my opinion, a very popular opinion, that there is a problem in the black community with a jump to violence. There's no thank you, yes. It reminds me of, who is that? Reese in the Terminator? They can't be bargained to. They can't be reasoned with. It's Terminator. There's no talking. I was out in Times Square, nice summer evening, and I had an apartment on 51st Street, and I had a new Canon camera with a beautiful lens on it. And I figured, it's nighttime, it's Times Square, I'm gonna take some photos. Times Square is it's the most photographed place on Earth, on the planet Earth. So I wasn't doing something insanely crazy. I was taking a picture of something that's photographed all the time. So the Canon isn't like a cell phone. You hear the camera. And I was taking pictures all night. People, lights, the city, the theaters. And I snap one, and I hear, "Oh, no, you did not take my picture." And this woman is coming over, like, hand up, ready to go. I'm like, "I'm just taking pictures of the city. It wasn't you." She was walking away from me, so her back was turned, but regardless of the situation, I knew there was a problem. So I'm trying to explain. That lasted 0.03 seconds. She just wails me in the side of the head. And I'm trying to protect my very expensive camera and, my parts and everything else. And she's just going off on the side of my head. I'm like, hey, what the are you doing? You don't take pictures of me. Erase that. And I go, I am taking pictures. It's completely legal. I can take, again, no reasoning, no bargaining. I was legally armed at the time. I had an H&K P229 on me, and I would always carry it. I went through enough hoops to actually legally carry a pistol in New York City. I was the guy. I was the one guy. Yeah. But I realized there was no way it was a life-threatening situation at that time. It's just some big bruiser woman hitting me upside the head. So I didn't even think of using a weapon. No violence whatsoever. I walked away. I de-escalated, which if you do carry, I recommend de-escalating every single situation you're ever in. Carrying a weapon legally will make you one of the most peaceful people on the face of the earth, man. You will not want to get into a scuffle because you know where it can go, and you don't want that. So I walked away. I went back to my apartment, and my crime, my horrid crime, for which I was fired and chastised by the media, was commenting, writing about it on Twitter. I wrote that there is a problem in the black community with violence, that there is no talking. I said this woman acted like a savage. I used the word savage. She was, I mean, call it like you see it. There had been all kinds of rumors and misinformation that I dropped N-bombs. I never did. I knew the rules to Twitter, and I just wouldn't do that. But I said she was acting like a savage. I go, this problem has to be addressed. This is something that the clergy in black communities talks about. They make up little rhymes about it. We got to silence the violence. It's like they know it. I wasn't saying anything that wasn't completely known. And the next day, I get a call again from my agent, and he's like, oh my God, we are in so much trouble. This is terrible. I go, what? I just commented. I walked away. I de-escalated. And I'm saying things that many people have said. No, SiriusXM is very angry. They don't want you to. And I'm like, SiriusXM, it's satellite radio. I wasn't even on the air. This was my personal time. This, by the way, was the second time that we got in trouble on satellite radio. When we got fired from WNEW, which was the last terrestrial radio station we worked for, we went to Sirius XM satellite radio. And we thought, this is great. Satellite, no more rules. We're in. Well, we get there, and we thought a great thing, a funny thing would be, let's get a homeless guy off the street and give him the show for the day. It's like perfect for satellite. There's no rules. This mental patient on the side of the street, his legs are rotting off. Yeah, we'll give him some booze, some eats, and a microphone. So he gets up there and he starts talking about how he wanted to have sexual relations with the Queen of England, Barbara Bush, and Condoleezza Rice in graphic detail. And I will say, there were some of these stories that he had told us where I don't think it was consensual. But we're like, it's satellite radio. This is what it's made for. Getting a homeless guy to spew his whatever. So the next day, the boss calls us in and goes, we got a problem. And I'm like, all right, what? Well, the guy you had on, homeless Charlie. Like, well, it's satellite radio. He goes, yeah, but this guy's got a problem. I am outraged, Reverend Al Sharpton. The Right Reverend Al. I am outraged. He's talking about Condoleezza Rice. And we're like, what are we supposed to do? He goes, we'll take care of it with Al. They wound up giving his National Action Network a show. They gave Reverend Al a show on Sirius Satellite Radio. And we were suspended from satellite radio. I have the honor and privilege of being the only show ever suspended from satellite radio. So thank you. Yes. Yeah. So we had gotten in a lot of trouble during our tenure there. And then when this happened and it hit the papers that my racist tirade and they fired me. And I really had no recourse at this point because no station was going to hire me. This was 2014. We are at the beginning of the cancel culture thing. I was persona non grata at every radio company. So I built a studio in my basement, and I started my company, Compound Media, and started doing a show from there within a month. Yeah, and it worked great. All the fans came over, and I was truly now able to 100% speak openly and honestly. And that's when I really started being called a racist. And you really find out who your friends are, because a lot of these comics, I hate comedians. They are so full of shit, if I may speak bluntly. There's this feeling that they're the saviors of the world, the ones that are willing to go out on the limb and speak, and it's such garbage. They will turn their back on you in a second. And most of them that I knew, they're in their 50s thinking they're gonna get that call from a sitcom, you know. Yeah, we want a 58-year-old New York stand-up comic for our latest new show all the kids are gonna love. No, you know, you're kind of, you know, pulling the throttle back at this point. You're flaring out for the landing. Yeah. So it was educational, to say the least. I was, you know, put in a position. There were some people that stuck by me, and I love that. But I had to really start from scratch here. And running a company, that isn't what I wanted. I got out of construction because I didn't like doing anything but doing a show. Now I had to learn about the logistics and the infrastructure of putting on a show. And this was early on. This wasn't just, you know, go to Best Buy and get your podcast kit with your mic and your camera, which is so funny that everyone does it now. Everyone gets a microphone, a camera, and has the ability to completely destroy their lives by saying something stupid. It's really quite wonderful. So I had to start doing that, and it opened, I was open to being able to really speak openly and honestly about my feelings and the issues. I went from, you know, the shock jock thing to wanting to talk about these issues that really concern us in a humorous way. I mean, it's kind of one of the best ways to reach people is through an element of humor, but it doesn't mean I'm any less passionate about what we need to do here in this country. And, you know, that, again, dubbed me as a racist and a horrible person, as we all are. How many people have been called a racist in this, right? Yeah. It really is amazing. I was talking to a friend and said, you know, if I was a real live racist, and I sat at a bar, I've had plenty of times, I sit at a bar, a Yankee game was on or something, and a black guy would come in and get a beer and go, yeah, wow, he's hitting great. And I think I'm supposed to go, hey, boy, won't you move on down the bar there, boy? No one does that. No one actually does that. You sit and go, yeah, that guy is hitting pretty good. There's not this insane racist guy. You judge people on an individual basis, but when you go home to your families and to your community, you want to be amongst your own people. And that's all we want. A great community. The stress level is the way it drops when you're among people that you're familiar with, that are like you, that are like-minded, that have the same ethics, morality. And that's what America was. America wasn't just about the borders of this country. There was a commonality we all had, even during some of the most tumultuous times of division in this country, the Vietnam War. A lot of those stupid hippies really loved America. They weren't communists. They, had a different opinion about the war. Some of them were. But it was, this is the America I want. I want a peaceful America that we can live in. That's gone. I mean, again, I don't want to be blackpilled, but what happened? We've invited and not invited so many people into this country that have no concept of what America is. It's not just a line on a map. It's a way of life. It's a way of thinking, and it's a way of living. And there are people that come in here, you get these enclaves up in Minnesota of Somalis, and they want nothing to do with the American way of life. You watch old videos of the Mall of America, and it's Americans, and there's kids and people having fun, and now you look and there's people in burqas shuffling along, and they have no respect for what we respect about this country. And sometimes I think to myself, am I just an old guy waxing fantastic about previous years, rose-colored lenses, or just the way things were? And no, because during the time I have grown up and gotten older, we've changed. The country's constantly changing. But the change that has happened in the past dozen years, maybe even a little longer, has nothing to do with the concept of America and being an American in this country. We can't be America and Americans if we don't stick to those traditional values that they are on a daily basis trying to destroy. So, in closing, am I good? I didn't know if this was 50 hours or 5 minutes. I've never done this. But in closing, again, I want to thank Jared. I want to thank everybody that I've talked to and people I will talk to, and people at American Renaissance. Winston Wolfe. Winston Wolfe is from Pulp Fiction. He was the fixer, the guy that takes care of it, which is so funny. I saw the email and I'm like, you sent him to Wolfe? That's all you had to say. So again, everybody, have a great time. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jared, for inviting me. Have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you.